In this video, I'm going to show you how to use 2 blocks to work on your arm balances. We're going to start with a basic arm balance. This is one of the first ones that everyone learns, which is crow pose. But using 2 blocks makes it really accessible, or a little bit more accessible, because you're really firming through the palms onto the blocks, so you have something to stabilize on. But it also elevates the hips a little bit and the pelvis a little bit, which allows you to get more easily into the pose. So you will place the blocks like we have been doing at the top of the mat or wherever on the mat, but just make sure that they are shoulder width apart. All right, and then let's come to Malasana squat. But I'd like you to bring the toes to touch. So often you see people accessing crow pose or working into crow pose with the feet wide, and you can find that pose, but it's far more effective. You're far more compact if the toes are touching. Another very important thing to remember when you're doing crow pose is that you're working on adducting. So you're squeezing from the outside inward, which will really help you hold the pose for longer. So I'll show you what I mean when we get into the pose. All right, so come into Malasana. You can be on the balls of your feet, the toes are touching. Place your hands on your blocks. Make sure that the pinky finger and the thumb, if you're using wooden blocks, are wrapping around the outer and inner edge of the block. And then just lift your hips a little bit. From here, bend your knees, split the knees. So each knee is going to come to each tricep. See that you can make that connection. And then start to bend the elbows backward like chaturanga. And then from there, you're just leaning forward. And this is very important. So you want to engage the hamstrings when you're working into your arm balances. It's going to help support you, keep you in the pose a little bit longer. So try to squeeze one heel to the buttocks. Imagine that you have a pencil or even a credit card or something behind your knee, and you really have to keep it there so the hamstrings begin to engage. Also, engaging through the hamstrings is going to take a lot more weight off the upper arms. So if you find that when you're working into your crow pose, you get these bruises around the back of the arms, or you're just dumping a lot of weight onto the upper arms, then engaging the hamstrings will really redistribute your weight into the legs, and that will help with that too. Okay, so let's get started. Ground your hands, lift your hips, take knees to each tricep, begin to lean forward, and then again, squeeze your heels to your bum. So fully flex through the feet. It's far easier to hold a little bit longer when you have this little bit of height underneath you. You can tuck the chin, your gaze is forward, keep squeezing. And then those of you practicing, obviously from here you can work into a one-legged crow, and it's much easier again with your blocks. And if you're wanting to up level, you can firm down into one knee and maybe see if you can lift the other. Try it on the other side. Something to play with. Stay here, and then when you want to release, you can just come down or shoot back. Chaturanga. Up dog is the inhale. I like to keep the toes tucked here. Oh, untucked. But no, tucked so that you can really lift up through the chest, and then downward facing dog is your exhale. Okay, and then pop down to your knees when you're done. So give that a try. If you've been practicing crow pose without blocks, give it a try on 2 blocks. It really changes the pose completely. All right, and then the next arm balance that I want to show you is side crow. So we'll just go straight into it. And this one is nice to start from your Utkatasana. So I'm going to take both of my blocks and place them along the long edge of the mat, because we're going to use them there. Okay, so come into a chair pose when you're ready. Bend your knees, lift your arms up and above the head. And then for this one, you want to twist. So you're going to bring your hands to your heart, lift the heart into the hands, and then twist the torso towards the left. Okay? And then try to connect your right elbow to your left knee. So just a normal twisted crow pose here. We've done a couple of these in these classes already. And then from here, very important, you're going to rise to the balls of the feet. Okay? So come lifting through the heels, and then set your buttocks on your heels. Okay? So now you're facing the long edge of the mat. Take your blocks and place each hand on each block. Now you want to set up quite nicely here. The hands want to be the width whereby when you bend, this is my left elbow, you want to connect the left elbow here to the buttocks crease or the hip crease, and then you want to connect the other elbow to the knee crease. Obviously, when you're advancing in your arm balances, you don't necessarily need the one arm, so you can do it on one arm. But here we're just sort of learning the arm balance, and you're trying to create a shelf for yourself to support yourself. So I always say it's really important to get the correct scaffolding for the pose before you can find balance. So just think about this as scaffolding. So you're coming high to the balls of the feet, and then like we did in crowbars, you're going to lean forward, bend your elbows backwards, try to connect your left elbow to your left hip crease and your right elbow to your knee crease, and then lean forward enough that your toes almost on their own begin to lift. Once you have this, you can play with extending the bottom leg forward and the top leg back. And then remember to lift the chest, spread the toes. Try to hold your arm balance practice for about 3 breaths. Once you can find calm inhales and calm exhales here, that's when you know you're really mastering the asana. And then coming out, ground the feet and release. Okay, check that out on the other side in your own time. Namaste.